Hi all, and I'm glad you could be with me today to talk about just something interesting that happened in the media that I thought was kind of funny. So funny, but extremely sad all at the same time. So I thought I'd just do this post to talk about this particular incident. Now it actually occurred in relation to a young man who, and we don't know the reason why yet, and I'm a bit curious about this, but he went for a COVID test and then received a message was sent to him via SMS to have that he was positive. And he declares, though, that he didn't receive that particular message. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know how that's the case. If you go and do a test, clearly you are waiting for the results from that test. My daughter the other day, she went for a test and she had to wait at home, couldn't go to work for that day because she knew that the result would be coming through within 24 hours and she can't leave the home. Once you've been tested, you can't leave your home until such time as you receive the results. Now, this young bloke chose not to, for reasons that we quite don't understand, but we might have a sense that perhaps he was an entitled little bastard who decided that it didn't matter for him because he was kind of different, he was kind of elite. And I'll just talk about that in just a moment. I'll just go to a news article that kind of talks about this, and then we will have a conversation about it. Now, I can understand that young people want to go out and enjoy themselves, and this is the time of the year in which you do that, I suppose, and that it's end of year for schools and stuff like that, and kids perhaps this age are thinking about university next year, and they're excited and they're meeting up with friends and they're partying and going out to clubs and all that sort of stuff. I get that that's the norm, but if you've been diagnosed or not been diagnosed, if you for some reason you felt that you had to have a test, maybe you had a bit of a flu symptom, maybe you were hanging out at a place where there were other people that might have contracted COVID, or that a place that you have attended at some point did have some COVID contact. So there are lots of reasons why one might think that you need to go and have a test. Or you could be returning from interstate, in which it is mandated that you have a test when you return, if you're coming from New South Wales or Victoria or whatever to South Australia. So that could have been his case. We don't know. I don't know. And I don't really care. So I just want to come to the article, though, in relation to this. And here it says, witnesses say a young clubber, could describe him as using other language, I guess. But anyway, a young clubber who partied despite a positive COVID test kissed at least two women, with one woman telling friends he didn't let her know he had the virus. Well, to be fair, he may not have known at that point in time that he was infected. But, nevertheless, he should have stayed at home and chose not to. So that was his bad. The 19-year-old former private schoolboy who was a member of one of the state's wealthiest families. Now, I don't know whether that means all that much, except they mentioned it a couple of times in this article. So I'm thinking, it could be, there are obviously few people that consider themselves relatively wealthy in this state, but it does tend to help us believe that perhaps he was an entitled little individual, came from privilege, believed that he could do kind of what he liked, that the law probably doesn't impact his family, doesn't impact him, and that he'll be protected because for what other reason he went to a private school, sense of elitism and all that sort of stuff. And it goes on to say the teen has told friends he didn't see the message until the next morning and was sorry for what occurred. Now, they mentioned again, it was educated at two of Adelaide's elite schools, partied at the popular High Street nightclub Love Boy for several hours. I love the name Love Boy. I don't know what all that means, but clearly it is significant. Kissing at least 2 women, sharing cigarettes with friends, and hugging patrons. Now, one of the women have detailed her trauma in social media and told friends the teen failed to inform her of his positive result. Again, he may not have known that he was positive at that particular time because, as he said, he didn't check his messages. Well, I guess if you're partying, maybe you wouldn't, but most people do check their messages, Facebook, whatever, particularly if you're young for some particular reason. And it goes on to say, a teenager initially joked on social media, was unavailable for comment when his mother did not return calls. Police would not comment on reports he went out for breakfast on Saturday or how authorities became aware of the incident. We don't know. It is forced out. This is the interesting thing. What a lot of young people don't realise, I think, is that their particular behaviour impacts a lot of other people. They think, in a very narcissistic way, that they're the only ones that matter, that no one else really I need to consider or think about because it's all about me. So it says that, and so this is the other interesting thing that we need to consider as well. It has forced 150 patrons and staff into quarantine, with many to be still isolating on Christmas Day. So he's buggered up a whole host of people's Christmases as a result of his thoughtless behaviour. And the club management have said they want justice. Now, the question here is, what sort of justice are they looking for? Do they want him to be punished? Do they want some sort of justice in terms of the amount of money that they've lost because they've had to close down their business at a very busy time for them throughout the year? They were seeking compensation from this guy's parents. If they're wealthy, go for it. I reckon, if your young son is stuffed up for whatever reason, then, maybe you as parents should take on that responsibility. Detectives with SA Health Help are investigating any branch of emergency management laws which, if proven, could lead to a $1,000 expiation or possible charges and fines for up to $20,000. So that's encouraging. And then I hope that he is fined because he's done the wrong thing. I think there's been pretty strong public outrage, says Mr. Marshall. I think it just serves as a lesson to everybody that we've done well as a state, but it does rely on everybody doing the right thing. Now, I wonder whether this child actually attended perhaps one of the schools that Marshall might have attended or any of his other colleagues, as to the fact that it is the Liberal Party and they come from a sense of elitism anyway. So I'm wondering what the connections are. Maybe we'll find out at some point what those connections are, the societal connections, and perhaps figure out what sort of person this young person was, what sort of family he came from, and whether or not that sense of elitism contributed to his behaviour. At the end of the day, whatever punishment comes about, it should be significant given what this young person did, how thoughtless he was. There needs to be consequences for those sorts of behaviours. Hopefully someone will be able to dish a substantive penalty for what he has done. And because he's really stuffed up so many people's Christmases, his Christmas and probably some next year needs to be stuffed up as well. Thanks for being with me, everybody. Just take care of yourselves. Remember, look after yourselves, look after others around you, and be safe.